Hi guys, I just first of all want to say thank you so much for tuning into the Empower Coaching podcast. It's great that you've even hit the button to listen, so thank you. As this is my first podcast of the show, I would like to start off by filling you in on my journey and where I've come from, which is kind of like the basis of why I've even started this podcast in the first place and why I started Empower Coaching as well. So about 10 years ago, that's kind of rough now, I was going through like a really difficult time in my life. I had been struggling at university with deadlines. There was problems within the family and my personal life. And I guess a accumulation of all of this kind of led me down a bit of a dark route. So my initial problems started probably a lot sooner, which I noticed from reading through my diaries. I kept them till quite a late age. But as cringy as that might be, it kind of pinpointed a few areas in my life where I was possibly starting to turn to the negative with regards to my own health. So I started noticing a few patterns, but I think the main issue in my life, or the biggest problem that I was faced with, was whilst I was at university in my last year, I think was when it hit, I developed an eating disorder called bulimia. So for those of you who don't know, bulimia is a mental health condition that can be affected or triggered by someone's emotions. And it's different for everyone, but for me personally, it was an issue with being able to connect with my own emotions and to be able to deal with stress. So the way that I would deal with it is that I would have these binges on all kinds of crazy foods. I would eat ridiculous amounts of food that I can't even start to list how much would go in there. And that time of while I was binging made me feel good. Like it took my mind away from whatever I was worrying about, whatever I was stressed about. It gave me another focus, and it would make me feel good. I was eating ace food, but obviously it was short term. And pretty much instantly, as soon as I would finish a binge, I would then feel enormous amounts of guilt, embarrassment, shame, and I would think that I was then gonna get really fat and pile on loads of weight. So I would then control it, and I would do what we call was purge. So I would bring the food back up again. Let's put it in a nicer way. And that's kind of like how that went for, I think, 4 or 5 years it went, until I officially went to go and see someone. So every time that I would be upset, that I would struggle with work deadlines, or go through some emotional trauma in my personal life, this is how I would deal with it. Now, even to this day, saying it out loud, it sounds silly, and I think this is what a lot of people struggle with bulimia or any eating disorder, is that it's hard to understand when you're in the moment, and it's hard to speak about because of the level of shame and embarrassment that comes with it. So many people can go years and years and years without officially being diagnosed or speaking to anyone to get help. I didn't know that I had bulimia for about 5 years. I thought it was just wanting to eat loads of unhealthy foods, and it was that's all it was to me at that time. It was kind of just sack off whatever was going on and enjoy some food that is normally classed as not good for you or unhealthy, bad food, and I would just eat loads of it. And that's all I kind of thought it was. I didn't realize that it was actually a mental health condition, and that it was stemming from my emotions and my ability to deal with my emotions. So yeah, I went 5 years until I I think the moment was when I had a breakdown during one of my lectures at university, and I had to leave the room. And luckily for me, my tutor came out and followed me, wanted to check that I was okay. And he then had a quick chat with me, and he referred me to the on-site student counsellor, who then referred me to the doctor, who then diagnosed me with bulimia. So it was a bit of a process. If it hadn't have been for my tutor actually following up on that, then I don't really know where I'd be today, because that was the initial point in which the change process started. So I'm forever thankful that someone actually took the time out to check on me, to make sure that I was okay and follow that through. So that's a little bit of a background about bulimia and how that started for me. So where am I at now, and why am I doing what I'm doing? Well, I'm in a much healthier place. I am about 3 or 4 years free of relapse. So relapse is where you have a relapse, so you go and do it again. You may have a binge and then a purge, or even just a binge with bulimia. So yeah, I'm a good 3 or 4 years down the line of being free from relapse. Am I 100% mentality like secure yet? No, I don't think so. You know, I still have thoughts, but for me, the most important thing is that I haven't taken action on those thoughts. So for me, in myself, I like to class that as me being cured, because for me, I'm in a much healthier position. While I was battling with bulimia, and while I was trying to go through the process of recovery, I would have relapses once a week, maybe once every 2 weeks. So I would go like 2 weeks, yes, I'm finally free from bulimia, and then 2 weeks down the line I'd have a relapse and I'd feel crap again. And so I kind of was going round and round in circles, and I was getting to a point where I was like, this is just me for life. Like, this is something that's going to be with me forever. I'm never going to be able to let go of this. And again, in my adult diary, there are actually notes where I have written about being in this place of feeling like I'm trapped, like I'm never ever going to be free from bulimia, which is a scary thought. And then that brings around a whole load of other thoughts. If I'm not good enough, no one's ever going to want to be with someone who is like this. You know, I'm never going to be successful in life. So I was just, to simply put it, I was feeling very, very trapped. And like it would never end. But it has. And, you know, I am walking proof of that happening. And so I guess what I want to do is kind of like reach out to people who've been there and who are feeling the same that I did, and just to be able to say, you can change. Like, it can change. You can come out of it, and you can wave goodbye to it forever. You know. But it's definitely not as black and white as that, and it's not as simple as that. So I want to be part of that process to help other people find the freedom of feeling trapped by bulimia and other eating disorders as well. So what it was for me that really kind of helped me through, because I did go and see a counsellor. I had cognitive behavioural therapy, CBT, and that definitely helped me to understand my emotions, anxiety, stress, depression, and how to kind of like tie it in and how to cope with it. But it didn't fully stop the binging and then causing the relapses. So I think, so what it was for me was when I was also having issues with my own body image. So I would go to the gym quite regular. And one day, a personal trainer approached me and said, look, I've got an offer on. I'm just going around handing out my flyers. This is what I can do for you. If you're interested, you know, there's great offers on now. Just send me an email, and, you know, we can do like a free 30-minute session. And normally I wouldn't have even really thought about getting a personal trainer or looking that deeply into my fitness, because at that time I was cardio queen. I was on the treadmill like hours on end. You know, anything that was cardiovascular that would make me sweat, that was all I was bothered about doing, because I was thinking about, you know, burning calories, and that would be how I lost weight and lost fat. So Anyway, I eventually took him up on his offer. I sent him an email. I said, look, I'd really like to have a go at the 30-minute free session, see what it's all about. And so I met up with the trainer, and his session was very much based around resistance training, weight training, with a little bit of circuits in there as well. I'd never done anything like that before. Like I say, I was running, I was walking, jogging, swimming, anything that really sort of like made my heart go and make me sweat. But I'd never really delved into the fitness area, especially not at that time, because it was like there was a specific room I remember that was filled with the weights, the weight room, and it was like the lion's den. Like you just didn't approach that if you're a female. It was full of guys slinging around big weights and making loud grunting sounds, and yeah, it was the den. And I was like, I'm never ever going to go into that. It was so intimidating. So I didn't really even know what it was to train weights. I'd never used the machines because I'd never sort of gone through the process of getting someone to show me how to use them. So I just stuck with what I knew, which was the treadmill. So yeah, so this guy, his whole session was based around weight training. We didn't do any typical sort of cardiovascular training. So I didn't go on a treadmill, didn't go on a cross trainer. It was all just free weights. So he had me doing things like squat and press, press ups, slam balls, using pieces of equipment that I just didn't even know existed in the gym. So running through that to the end of the session, I remember just feeling I just felt fucking amazing, to be honest. I felt so good. I felt strong. I felt empowered. And I just had this like whole wave of confidence come over me. And I couldn't really quite describe it, but it was a good feeling. It felt awesome. I felt awesome. And I just loved it. And I was like, right, I am 100% doing this again. Like weight training is ace. Like I love it. I feel good. So I messaged him again, and then that's when I started my personal training sessions. And I continued to do this for quite a few years. So obviously I was building on my strength. I was noticing how my body was changing for the better. But the most important thing for me at this point was learning about resistance training and learning that you have to fuel your body in a certain way for it to make the most out of it, for it to be the most beneficial. I wanted to get stronger. I wanted to start seeing the muscles. That was something that instantly I became addicted to. I wanted to push heavier. I wanted to do better. I wanted my personal trainer to be proud of my achievement, of what I was doing and my achievements. So it was that kind of thought process that made me think, I can't be eating all this crap anymore and then throwing it up. Like I need my energy. I need to feel energetic and strong so that I can walk in there and start slinging around all of these weights. And I was educated on the three main macros, so your proteins, your fats, your carbohydrates, the role that they play, especially with building muscle and hypertrophy, and the role that they play in your energy levels and recovery as well. So having that education really made me rethink my whole nutrition process. And I'm not going to say that it suddenly changed overnight, but I think the turning point for me was that I now had a purpose with my nutrition. So I wasn't afraid to eat carbs anymore because I knew that I needed them for my progression and for my recovery. I started learning more about the proteins and the fats, and the foods the bad foods that I was afraid of previously now became my friends. Let's say, these were now foods that were going to help me along with my journey, so I needed to have them. So that kind of guilt, slowly, it was slow, that guilt kind of started to slide away, and I started to think more about eating to fuel my body. And that was basically the turning point for me. I had a focus on my food, and I knew what I needed to do and how to fuel my body. And the more that I started learning about that, the more I started to respect my body, the more that I learned about what it could actually achieve and what I could do with it and how I could change it, and how I could see myself getting stronger. That became my focus. So it was no longer about trying to be the skinniest person in the room, you know, and it became more about, I need to respect my body inside and out. I think resistance training also helped me with my emotions and how to control my emotions as well. So there was a time around then when I was very angry all the time. I had a lot of anger inside of me. I would constantly argue with my boss at the time. I walked out of work quite a few times. I would walk back in about an hour later and apologise. And yeah, so I struggled quite a lot with anger, which I think was essentially a build-up of sad thoughts that I never let anyone see. So it was the depression kind of like built up, and it exploded after a while. Now, at that time, I would have dealt with that by binging and eating food to make me feel better. But having the fitness and doing the strength training released a lot of emotion for me. The power that you need to be able to push or pull a heavy weight, you know, it takes a lot out of you. And it's almost like, imagine if you're really, really stressed and you drive somewhere really quiet, you go to the top of the mountain and you scream your head off and you just let all of it out. Well, lifting the weights was like my body's version of just shouting and screaming and let it all out, which is probably why you hear a lot of people grunting so much in the gym. I've never really thought about that, but that's probably could well be part of the reason, along with the fact that, you know, it kind of takes your breath away when you're pushing heavy weights like that. So yeah, so the fitness side of things also became my emotional control as well. I was able to manage my stress and my anger. So I now had these two things tied in. I had a focus on my nutrition, and I had a way to control my emotions. So those two combined, with commitment and you know, motivation as well, you know, and sticking to it, eventually became the reason why I was able to move away from my eating disorder. And again, it did not happen overnight. It took a long time, but that is what it all kind of boils down to. So therapy can come in various ways for people. It can work for people in very different ways, but for me, it was definitely through the fitness and health and my general overall well-being that comes along with that. And this is kind of why I started Em.Powercoaching, because I went from feeling so crap about myself, feeling very negative thoughts, thoughts of self-doubt, unworthiness, and I was able to change that by developing a mindset where I put my health first, and I started to respect my body, and I shifted my focus onto my health and fitness. That was my therapy. So I always say this, like, fitness is my therapy, and still is to this day. So if I'm not having a really bad day, I won't just sit and eat a load of crap food anymore. I know that if I grab my gym bag and I go to the gym, I'm going to leave there 30 minutes, 60 minutes later, feeling like a whole new person than the one that walked through that door to begin with. So fitness is my therapy, and it definitely helped me more because I struggled so much with talking to people and with being open with people, like my counsellor, friends and family, who some of them to this day still don't even know, that I actually had an eating disorder back then. Because I struggled so much to talk to people, this was like another way of dealing with it that worked for me. So Empower Coaching was just the right route to go down. I've always enjoyed helping other people. I've always had an interest in fitness to some degree anyway. So I thought, right, I'm gonna go and get my qualifications that can back up my experiences, put the two together, and provide people who have gone through similar experiences that I have, who are feeling similar to how I did, feeling trapped, lost, confused, at a dead end, and show them, do you know what, there is an answer, but maybe you've been looking, in the wrong place. Perhaps this route is going to be what works for you. And just to try and give people that empowerment and feeling of self-belief again, because I know how horrible it is to be in that place, and I know the amazing, wonderful things that living a healthy and fit lifestyle can do. So yeah, that's when Empower Coaching was born. So I guess kind of like what I want to say is, just to sort of like wrap it all up, is that my own experiences are what have led me here. So I'm coming with my coaching program not only from a qualified, research-backed path, but also from my own experiences. Like, I've been there, I've done it, I've got the t-shirt type of thing. I understand the mentality that's going to go with it. I understand the physical side that's going to come with it, and I understand the importance of the two meeting as well, because it's all fair and well saying you can go into the gym and you can do a workout and that's all cool, but if you haven't got the mentality to go with that, then eventually it's either going to be a slower progress or it's going to come to a stop. So I bring Empower Coaching with an approach from all areas. So it's a whole approach. It's looking at your health, your fitness, and your mental well-being as well, and tying them all together with the aim to help people reinvent themselves and find the best version of them. So with that in mind, this podcast really, over the weeks that I record each show, it is going to be bringing you elements of each of those three areas: health, fitness and well-being. So we're going to look at mental attitudes, how to limit self-limitations, how to find empowerment in your daily life, looking at strategies to live a more positive lifestyle and have, and improve on your self-confidence. And it's also going to be educating the listeners on, you guys, on fitness, weight and resistance training, because that's specifically where I hold my passion. Various types of exercise, how we can incorporate that into our daily lives, looking at nutrition and the importance of vitamins, minerals, macros, micronutrients, all that kind of stuff, and just having elements of all of that, tying it all in so that we get a whole rounded approach to try and find the best version of you. So yeah, that's my story, my introduction. Thank you for listening, and if you've got any comments about what you've heard today, or maybe related to something that I've said, please do reach out and let me know. I'm here for anyone to contact, to chat about. I'd love to hear from you guys. I'd love to hear what you think of the podcast as well, and if there's anything that you would really like me to speak about in specific as well. So you can follow me on Instagram. It's just Em.Powercoaching UK. And you can also send me an email to empowercoachingteam@gmail.com. And absolutely love to hear from you guys. So definitely reach out to me. Let me know what you think of my shows. If there's anything that you want me to discuss, or if you just want to have a chat, then please feel free to do that. Thank you for listening, guys. Until next time.